Good morning, beautiful people. Kit Cummings. Welcome back to 40 Sermons in 40 Days. This is day number 33. Appreciate you tuning in every day. This is a spiritual boot camp to help us through this strange time of quarantine that we find ourselves in. Today we're going to be looking at turning points, and we're going to witness one of the most amazing conversions and transformations the human race has ever seen. I mean, this is a buckle your seatbelt kind of crazy ride. But first, let's talk about turning points. This is when life pushes pause and you are faced with an event, a situation, a decision. And this is one of those moments, and we look back over our lives and we get to the other side and we get to see the review of this one life. There's going to be a handful of moments that are turning points. It's when life gets your attention and you get to make a decision. It might hit you without you asking. It could be a pregnancy, life changes. It could be falling in love and getting married, boom, life changes. The birth of a child, an adoption, a bankruptcy, an addiction. Could be a divorce, a loved one passes, your parents, you have to start taking care of them. A job offer, a layoff. A financial crisis, an inheritance. I mean, there's all kind of turning points in this crazy ride. And if we look back on it, we would be able to see God. But when we're in the middle of it, in the middle of the storm, it doesn't seem like he's there because, man, we're going through pain. We're being pressed and we're being stretched and we're being tested. And see, life will do that. God doesn't even have to do it. Life does it. You know, we reap what we sow, we create this world, and then life happens. It shows up, pushes pause, and it's you and him. The Bible says that his eyes roam throughout the earth, searching for those whose hearts are fully committed to him. So I want to take you back to the first century. Jesus has come, he's preached, he's been crucified, he's resurrected, he showed himself to over 500 people and stayed with them, ate with them, proved that he was who he was. And then he left them and filled the whole universe. And then this revolution, this movement, it started to explode. But it was really a Jerusalem movement. It was a Jewish movement. And that's what the main leaders thought it was going to be. God rarely does things in the way that we think he should or the way we would. Because his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. And so he makes what seem to be crazy moves. But if we look back over the journey of our lives, we see his fingerprints. He is involved in the details. So there is an incredible persecution that hits the church, and the church is scattered. And Christians are being threatened and their property confiscated. They're being locked up. Some are being killed. And the star of the show, where we pick it up here in Acts chapter 9, is a man named Saul of Tarsus. Now this man was impressive. In that day, he was the rising star in Judaism. He had the pedigree, he had the resume. He was born in the tribe of Benjamin. He would call himself a Hebrew of Hebrews. He joined the party of the Pharisees and got raised up. This was the elite. They were the religion police, the keepers of the truth. And they were the ones that dictated God's law, God's will, God's plans. And all the people, they followed them, a lot resented them, they feared them. And all of a sudden we see this skyrocket rise by this man named Saul. And he's in the right party, he's in the right tribe. He's gone to the right school, prestigious education under a man named Gamaliel. And so if you look at Paul's life, and he would even say legalistically, faultless. Man, he lived by the law. The law was everything to him. I think he was ambitious. I think he was talented. I think he probably had a little bit of money. And he had a gift for leading people. You know somebody like that. Somebody that's just built for revolution. But here's one problem. Well, first of all, if you're looking through all over the earth for someone that can lead God's movement to the Gentiles, now this was unheard of. The Jews were like, they didn't think this was for the Gentiles. It was going to be for them, and then Jesus was going to come back, and all the holy people, the chosen ones, were going to go to paradise, and all these Gentiles be left behind. And yet God was looking for his evangelist to the Gentiles. He had a lot of people he could have chosen. Real spiritual people, compassionate people, soft-hearted people, somebody that has spiritual gifts, wonderful speakers, people that have a great singing voice, people that just love people. And there was lots and lots of beautiful souls for him to choose. But he chose someone, check this, he chose the biggest enemy of the church. Saul was notorious. He was infamous. He had gone to the chief priest, the top dog, and he had gotten papers. They gave him authority and they commissioned him to destroy this new movement. Man, he was focused, he was clear, he was determined, and he was strong. Rock star. But he was about to take on one that he had never seen before. And so the old problem was God chose somebody that literally was kind of a terrorist. I mean, he was killing Christians in the name of God. He killed one of the brightest preachers that the movement had, a man named Stephen. And he was there directing the procession, the meeting where Stephen was killed. That started the persecution. Everybody knew about this man, Saul. They were terrified. And so Saul had authority. He had the pedigree. He had the power. He had the talent. He's going house to house and he's arresting Christians. Now imagine Christians are shut up. They're quarantined, but they're trying not to get found. And then Paul is breathing out murderous threats. I'm not going to read the whole, it's almost a chapter, so I'll just kind of start with the beginning. It says in chapter 9 of Acts, meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found anyone there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Bible says he's breathing out murderous threats. Okay, God's setting the scene. And then he's about to have his encounter. He's about to have his moment. Our life changes in sacred moments, and they arrive at different times for different people. But this is going to be God showing us that he will have his way. If he wants somebody, he will get you. He will stalk you. He'll surround you. He'll carry you. He'll send angels to you. He'll even send people to agitate you, to rough you up a little bit spiritually and get you soft and humble. But this man, humble? Nobody would have said that Saul of Tarsus was humble. But here, as he gets his authority and he's getting ready to go into the city to Damascus, he's on the road to Damascus. Maybe he's on a camel, or maybe he's on a horse. And all of a sudden it says a bright light. Boom! It was like a lightning strike, just bam, knocked him off his horse. It wasn't just a little bit of illumination or some sunshine. This was some kind of pow, and it knocked him down. And it was so bright he couldn't see. He was blinded by this light. And he cried out. Now check this. He didn't think about it. He didn't strategize. This wasn't part of his plan. He just said, who are you? And nobody else saw the light or heard the sound. This is one-on-one. God will talk to you and deal with you one-on-one. Especially you've been praying for him. Oh, he'll show up. But he doesn't show up the way you always think he does. So he knocks him down, takes away his sight. Paul is completely humbled. And he says, who are you, Lord? He calls him Lord. And he says, I'm Jesus, whom you are persecuting. All right, now this is his moment. What do I do? He says, you go into the city and you'll be told what you need to do. And they take him by the hand, and this powerful, strong, arrogant, ambitious man is led by the hand of his enemies into a certain house. And he begins to pray and fast for 3 days. When God gets your attention and humbles you, when he humbles me, how do we respond? Man, we can respond through apathy. I don't even see him. We can complain and talk about how hard our life is. We can make excuses about this probably that doesn't have anything to do with me. We can keep it to ourselves. We can run from God, or we can fight. You know, whenever God challenges you, do you fight him or do you run? Paul had a decision to make, and he decided to do the only thing he could think of. He couldn't see, and so he just prayed. He locked himself down 3 days, and he prayed. And he said, God, I'm not going to eat. This was his moment. Have you had yours? Do you need another one? Did the first one take, but then you've lost your love? Are you one of those guys that says, man, I don't like the church? I mean, God chose Saul, who hated the church. He hated the movement, and God said, that is my man. What did he see in Saul? He saw passion. He saw indignation. He saw courage. He saw leadership. Just one little problem. He hated the movement. He hated church. You know, I never read it, but I heard the title of a book, and it was, I love Jesus, but I can't stand his church. No, I messed it up. I love Jesus. Dang. I love Jesus, but I can't stand his wife. His wife. The bride of Christ is the church. How many people out there are disillusioned with modern day Christianity? How many people have been hurt by the church? Man, have been let down. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I mean, we're very judgmental as human beings, and it's easy to judge, especially when we get hurt and we feel like nobody cares. And then we start taking it out, and maybe you've kind of lost your love for the church. I still love Jesus, but man, I ain't crazy about his wife. Man, I was in that spot for a while. I was mad. I was mad at God, mad at people, mad at the church. There was pain there. There's a lot of people in today's world that are swearing off the church. It's like, I'm not doing that. I'm just doing God, just me and God. I'm a free agent, and I'm going to do it that way. And then he'll keep on working, and that's what he was doing for Saul. But see, Saul now is praying and fasting, and God's not done yet. He needs just the right brother. So he goes to Ananias. He says, Ananias, I need you to go into the city. Go down to Straight Street. Go down there. I'm going to give you the exact GPS address. And there's a man, and he's praying, and I need you to go talk to him. His name is Saul. He's from Tarsus. Immediately, Ananias says, Lord, no, you don't know this guy. Obviously, you don't know him, which is kind of comical. When we try to tell God he doesn't know what he's doing, it's like, nah, we know better here. I know you tell me to do this, but first of all, you don't really get this. Let me help you out, which is kind of hilarious when we kind of start counseling God. But he said, I want you to go. He says, Lord, this guy is dangerous. He's trying to kill us. You want me to have him close to no. Choose somebody else. See, he wasn't just choosing Paul. He was choosing the guy that was going to convert Saul to Paul. And it had to be the right brother. Man, you might be listening to this, and it ain't about, you're not Saul. You might be Ananias. And he might be saying, hey, I need you to go. And I need you to go to this person. I need that person. I need that sister. She's lonely and she's hurt. I need you to help her. Okay, that is your specific mission. I need this brother. He's struggling. He loves me, but he's caught up in addiction. I need you to go to him. And when you feel that little nudge, Ananias, go. Trust me. This man, check this. This man is my chosen instrument, God told him. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. Ananias, trust me, he's mine. I take who I want, and I will chase them down until I get them. You ever feel like God's stalking you? That ain't a bad thing. So Ananias had to wrestle with, am I going to obey God? If Ananias doesn't really be the disciple that he's supposed to be, then Saul remains Saul. See, you have a huge piece of this puzzle. The reason people are flocking from the church, I love Jesus, just don't like his wife, is because they're not seeing Jesus in people. Maybe they're not seeing the Jesus of the Bible. They're seeing church. They're seeing wonderful people that are very nice, kind people, dressing up. But man, he wants to get the one. Why would he choose a terrorist? Why would he choose enemy number one of the church? Why? Because God's glory shines bright when he takes someone who is his enemy, has mocked God, has ridiculed God, has persecuted God's followers, has sworn off things and cursed God. He's like, I think God says, oh my, that is my chosen instrument. What would Christianity be without Paul? He wrote half of the New Testament. Man, we would only have a little bitty New Testament. Paul was supposed to do that. But if he remains Saul, man, he just tears the world up. But if he becomes Paul, he's humble. He's still ambitious. He's still a leader. He's still courageous. He's still very focused. He's very persuasive. He's still brilliant. He's still well trained in the law. All that stuff was not going to go away, but it was a broken heart that he needed. Don't be afraid of a broken heart. Big changes come with big fear. You know, big changes come when we are down and out. Big changes, monumental changes come when we got nothing else we can rely on. We come to the end of ourselves and we say, who are you? I know what they've told me, but who are you? And God says, you're my chosen instrument. But here's the deal. Paul, if you choose me, it's going to cost you. Paul was about to make a decision that was going to cost him everything. Who are you, Lord? And then he says, go into town. I'll let you know. God does things on his own timing. All of a sudden, Ananias gets his heart right, and he goes down, and he meets who would become Paul. He had to change his name, because when he went and tried to get with the church, they wouldn't let him in. Barnabas had to say, he's okay, he's one of us, and they still didn't believe him. Scandalous. Man, they finally let him in, but they never really trusted him. I mean, Paul would go through incredible hardship because of this decision. Sometimes he would be flogged 5 times. He was stoned and left for dead. He spent a night in the open sea. He was often cold and hungry and naked. Man, he was on the run. He went all the way to the Romans. He took on the Romans and preached for God. And he became a martyr, and they had to take his head off his body. And then it says that he got his prize. What would we do without Paul? Most of the known world back then would not have had churches in it if it wasn't for Paul. God knew what he was doing. He chooses the least of these, the lowly and despised things, to shame the wise. Because when we see somebody who's always awesome become more awesome, it doesn't inspire us. Sometimes it discourages us. But when we see the hater, we see the violent man, we see that mean sister, we see the one that is sworn off God, man, just no way, I'm done with that. I think God says, perfect. Here's what I need. I need that person to get a humble, broken heart and get beaten into a state of reasonableness. And I need a chosen instrument to go get that person. This whole thing relies on everybody. Do you have gifts like Paul had that you're giving to the world, but you're not giving to God's people and to the lost? Man, do you have incredible leadership ability in your job, but you don't bring that into the church? You know, do you treat your family wonderfully, but your neighbor next door, not so much? You know, do you have brilliance? You could unlock some secrets for us, but you don't really study. You know, do you have the gift of gab? You can get in front of a party, you're the life of the party, but you kind of stifle that in church. Are you the person that everybody sets up front? Or are you the one that feels today like he ain't gonna use me? Why? I'm too far gone. I don't care where you are. You can be dynamo spiritually, be Ananias. You can be opposed to God and in a really rocky relationship with him, and you can be Saul to Paul. But it was going to take some suffering. You know, Paul, here was what was beautiful. He took everybody's excuses away. When he became a loyal, faithful ride or die with Jesus, now he can be used. And all that law knowledge, he used it to convert Jews. And all that just worldly passion, he used it to convert Gentiles. Do you have something you die for? Do you have something you love so much? And I'm not talking about wife and kids and parents. I'm talking about, do you have something that you would die for? Because a man that's got nothing he's willing to die for isn't fit to live. That was Dr. King that said that. And so today his eyes roam over the earth looking for somebody that he can use. Can you stand up today and say, here am I, send me. Send me to my neighbor. Send me to my boss. Send me to that sister that needs somebody so bad. You know who they are. They just popped into your mind. You know. Be Ananias today. Oh, but man, we need some Sauls. We need some wild men to become evangelists. We need some broken preachers who have left to come back and start preaching again. We need some sisters to rise up and be a voice in this world. Man, we need young people to raise up. We need an army of young people. But you know what? They ain't coming to church. Why are the young people not coming to church? Because they don't see Jesus in us grown folks, not enough. Man, they need to see heroes. They don't need to see nice little soft church people. God bless wherever you're at. I'll close with my story for the day. Back in the very first prison, there was a need. We had started a peace movement. We were bringing rival gang leaders together. We developed a peace council, and the toughest prison in the state of Georgia started seeing violence go down. And more brothers, heavy brothers, guys that don't do programs, became a part of this thing called the Power of Peace. But we needed one guy, and it had to be the right guy. And God looked down and he found a man that was a high-ranking gang member with a lot of influence. Young, 27 years old, talented, incredible speaking voice, brilliant, looking for a cause but caught up into gang life. He didn't need to make a change. He had what he wanted, a little money, a little cell phone, drugs if he wanted it, power. He was safe. Nobody was going to get on him. And so I think God looked down and said, Andre, it's my chosen instrument. We became friends. And I started putting him up front. He would do the welcome. We'd bring all the gangs together. It was beautiful. And he would get up and just a talented, brilliant man. But God was ready to use him. He made a move. And he got transferred from the cushiest dorm, which is not that cushy, but it has air conditioning, the rest of them don't. And he got sent to the general population to a dorm called C1. C1 was a mess. I mean, that prison was on fire. There were bodies. And Andre went in, night one, he went to sleep. Everybody know him. Most people know him. He's got a reputation. The next morning, here's his decision. And I'm going to challenge you, what could yours be today? He got up early. He got a bucket, filled it with water and soap, got a scrub brush, and he began to get on his knees and scrub the nasty floor of that nasty, dank prison. And people started to spectate and watch. First, they kind of ridiculed a little bit. Then they kind of just disregarded a little bit. After about a week, they started pitching in, and that dorm became the pop dorm. They started praying together. They put their honey buns and soups in a community box where anybody that needed it could have it, and there was honor among thieves. And this Andre became the symbol of the suffering servant, giving up his worldly power. And guess what? He got so much more power as a peacemaker than he ever had as a gang leader. And I owe him so much wherever he is. Andre, he's my friend. He showed me. I'll close with this. Paul was God's chosen instrument. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. Man, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to dig deeper? Are you willing to stand up? Of course, it's scary to put yourself out on front. It was for him too. He put himself in danger, but now he rose above the gang thing. But all those things he was as a gang leader, he still had them, but then he humbled. And when he was baptized, I got to baptize him in the prison. They had never used the baptistry before. Didn't even know where it was. It was all just dusty. And we had to get the state to agree to let us because it's a health risk. You could drown somebody. Isn't that funny? And so that'd be a way to go, get drowned during baptism. So anyway, he got baptized at one of the most beautiful days of my life, and he went on his mission. The least likely guy, gang leader, becomes peacemaker and preacher. Paul takes away our excuses. What's your best excuse? Put it up to Jesus and see it fall away. Be the person you always dreamed you could be. We need you now. Be an Ananias, be a Saul to Paul, but be somebody. I love you. Tomorrow, sermon at 10 o'clock, and I'll be letting you know what it is in a little while. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Be the peace you wish to see.